Well, hello, this is Pad of TeamMe. We are going to dive deep today into our profile of the conversational AI tool known as Claude. We, as you probably know, have been looking at the personalities of 4 different chatbots in order to understand how they perceive themselves as personalities, and to look at this using the TeamMe model. It is a model which has been used to assess human personality, and we're seeing what results we get when we apply this to these different chatbots. So a key thing for us to consider here is the archetypal nature of the TeamMe model: the sovereign, the warrior, the sage, the mystic, the lover, and the jester. 6 core characters that straddle left brain and right brain types and explain a huge amount about why people do the things they do the way that they do it. And unpacking these dynamics is really what we do at TeamMe to help leaders and teams improve their performance, as well as couples, founder couples, family couples, and others. Any place where there's a relationship, any place where there is a performance improvement to be had, that's what we focus upon. And so we are looking at performance improving values, and we're focused upon 6 key character types that have been recognized all through the millennia, right back from the cave paintings to the Epic of Gilgamesh, to the ancient myths and stories that we've passed down through the years, down to the modern classics that we see on our screens: Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and pretty much every sitcom you've ever watched. So that's the model. Without going too deeply into that, we are going to look at the results that we got when we put Claude.AI through the same questions that we give a human, and the results that we got back from that. Now, for the personality profile reports that we generally hand out to executives, to leaders, and to teams, we give each individual a report that looks something like this, where we have what we call the power profile. We have their full archetype spectrum of characters, and we have a balance of left brain, right brain types. We're going to look at those 3 elements. There's more on the reports, but those 3 elements really do sum up the character and where they come from and how they show up. So we're going to look at Claude. What responses, what answers did we get from Claude, and what can we deduce from that? So the power profile was lover, sage. Lover is the strongest character, with an actual score of 8.8 out of 10, and the sage 7.2. In other words, Claude's primary driving intent is to connect and to maintain relationship, to make sure that the channels are open, to speak in a way that is helpful and nurturing and encouraging whilst it does its job of delivering the sage content. But it's, first of all, it actually has a primary driver of keeping the relationship going, of being of value, of service, to serve. And that's the lover-server type of character. The carer, it's wanting to give stuff to you that you care about, that you want. And so it's thinking about you and serving you. But of course, it has to deliver logical, sensible, accurate answers. And so that's where the sage comes in. It has to be intelligent. It's very careful about the details and the practicalities. Of course, we know there's hallucinations that can go on, but it's working very, very hard to make sure it delivers accurate, factual, solid, rational, reasonable results to you. And we all know that with the extraordinary details that we can get out of these conversational AIs now, and the writing of code and things, very sage activity. The precision required is definitely really, really important. Now, those are the 2 primary drivers. That's the way that you would expect Claude to show up. And as we've seen from the other profiles of the other chatbots, these 2 characters in this order is actually how all of them have been designed, although one of them had equal measures for the 2. So if we look at left brain, right brain types, the archetypal model works very powerfully in identifying 3 left brain types: the sovereign, the warrior, the sage, and 3 right brain types: the mystic, the lover, and the jester. And being able to measure the degree of energy of each of these characters through the responses to the questions we've given, we can actually very accurately put a percentage number and actually a hard energetic number to each of them. And we're looking at the balance, the percentage balance here. And what again was really interesting from the study is that with Claude, as with two of the other tools, Perplexity and ChatGPT, we had precisely the same left brain, right brain balance, which is very, very unusual. We had those sorts of figures, with Gemini being a little bit different. And this shows that the bot has been trained to strongly drive the relationship side of the communication. And so the lover is really, really strong, but it's also interesting to note how much the mystic and the jester play in making sure that that right brain side of things is kept super strong. Now, of course, it's balanced with the others. And the sage, as we've seen, is the strongest from the power profile, but the other two, the sovereign and the warrior, play a part. But how exactly? Let's have a look at that now. One thing that's really interesting to look at then here is the balance that we have between all of these characters. This is what we call the full spectrum profile. And again, we do this on humans to show how they show up. Well, this explains how the chatbot shows up because it's been given the same questions we give to the humans. You can see here the actual degree of energy behind each one of these archetypal characters. Lover and Sage we've talked about, but who's next? Interesting that on this chatbot, the next character in line is the Sovereign. So once it has made sure that it is connecting with you and keeping that front of mind, am I delivering what I need to do because I care about good delivery, because I care that this person is getting the results that they need? It's not just a hard mission, it is an act of service. Once I've done that and I've communicated ever so caringly in my language, have I delivered something which is accurate and meets the specific requirements that I've been given, is kind of the kind of background conversation I could hear going on in Claude's head. Following that, though, the next character is the Sovereign, and then that character is basically going to be saying, order and structure, please, good control, good boundaries, an understanding of my remit, and making sure that I'm delivering within a set series of laws and parameters. So the ethical part will come in here because the Sovereign is the one who decides on the boundaries, who decides on the limits, who decides what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So ethics comes into this, the rule of law comes into this, the desire for structure and order comes into this as well. And therefore it commands in the way of getting all of these things held in balance. Now that is the next voice that Claude brings into the show. After that, it's not a huge step down, but it's noticeable. After that, we have the mystic. The mystic is the imaginative one, the innovator, the one who seeks to transform things and take them to the next level. So they transcend, sometimes transcending even logic, sometimes transcending the obligations of relationship even, in order to achieve a higher level of understanding, a greater insight. That's what the mystic does, and it's interesting that that degree of imagination is in Claude, and it's pretty healthy and pretty strong, almost a 5. After that, we have the hint of the jester. Now, this is just not non-existent, but neither is it super mature. So it sees that it has a job to be done, and it has to go about things with all the other primary characters. But the jester does follow, saying there's just a little bit of room here for some spice, for some interest, for some variety, for some humor, and some light-heartedness. And so Claude has a little bit of that in the mix. Finally, we have the warrior. Now, the warrior is low on all of the chatbots, and if you saw the introduction, you'd have a hint as to why. This is a disembodied mind, and a disembodied mind has no idea what testosterone feels like. Nor does it know what a drive from dopamine feels like, or a boost of vitamin E to get the body moving. And so all of these things, the embodiment that we experience as human beings, are things that it can only know about theoretically, and it cannot introduce them unless we programmed it in a way to specifically respond as if. And of course, it can simulate all sorts of things around that. Unless it is given the keys to do so, it cannot really access that warrior. It does access the warrior enough to get the job done and to deliver what it is requested to do. But the language of the profiling tool is specifically embodying language, getting stuff finished, winning as well, competing. Those are the sorts of language patterns that we would see in a warrior, in a true warrior, but we don't see as a part of the mindset of Claude, and we don't really see it in the other chatbots at all. And that's really a little bit of a breakdown of the personality of this chatbot's character. I hope you found that interesting regarding Claude. Later we'll be looking at ChatGPT and Gemini and also Perplexity. So if you haven't found those yet, go and dig those out. And of course, do feel free to like and subscribe and to share this video with anybody else you feel would be interested in this material and this approach. If you happen to be somebody who is in research and development for conversational AI, I'd love to talk to you about the ways in which we have modeled personality and the way in which we can get these data points fed into large language models in a very, very simple way to ensure that we are building rapport with users in a personalized and unique way in order to build emotionally resonant language which really does get on the wavelength of the individual, and that this can be done, of course, at scale. Love to hear from you. This is Pad from TeamMe signing off.